Chuck, you can start your YouTube stream.
Okay.
I will admit everybody, and then we can go ahead and get started. Okay.
Buenas tardes y gracias por acompañarnos esta tarde. Hay traducción en español disponible. Para acceder al canal en español, vaya a la sección por debajo de su pantalla. Por la derecha, elige el icono de globo mundial y seleccione español. Si tiene alguna pregunta, escriba su pregunta en la área de chat o utilice la función de levantar la mano por debajo de su pantalla. Durante las actividades de grupo pequeños, por favor regresen a la sala principal para la charla traducida en español. Muchas gracias.
Okay, Chair Harrington, it's on you.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Washington County listening session. Can you hear me okay? Oh, great. I see a couple of head nods. That's wonderful. Thank you for joining us this evening. This is our fourth in a series of 6 listening sessions during the last 2 weeks of August. You may already know that after the death of George Floyd, one of the thoughts that I had about how to increase transparency with regard to policing is to ensure that our law enforcement division of the Sheriff's Law Enforcement Patrol was fully outfitted with body-worn cameras, because currently we have only 16% of the law enforcement patrol outfitted with body-worn cameras. And so I put a budget proposal forward. My colleagues considered that proposal, and we went forward from there. But not 24 hours after launching that proposal and discussing it with my colleagues, I received some quick feedback from some communities of color here in Washington County that they weren't necessarily keen on that proposal. And so I discussed that with my colleagues on the board, and we chose to pause the deployment of body-worn cameras until we had the opportunity of hearing more from our community. So with our staff support, we've had these listening sessions set up to specifically ask about your views on body-worn cameras. But of course, we welcome all community input. And so here we are tonight. We tried to set these listening sessions up to reach specific aspects of our community that we have historically underserved in our community engagement and input. So tonight, we've done outreach to try and ensure that we're reaching the Black, Indigenous, and people of color here in Washington County, but all are welcome this evening. And now I'd like to ensure that you know that at least 2 and possibly 3 other members of your Washington County Board of Commissioners are here tonight. So I'd first like to recognize Commissioner Pam Treese. Pam, Commissioner Treese, could you say hello? Great. We've got
Absolutely.
4 of us. Great. We have 4 of us, in fact. Commissioner Roy Rogers, I see you there as well.
Hello.
Thank you. Commissioner Jerry Willey, I see you as well. You want to just give a quick hello so people know which of these Jeopardy video boxes you are?
Hello, everybody. Glad you're here.
Thank you, Commissioner Willie. And then we also have Commissioner Dick Scouten.
Hello, everyone. I'm glad you're here. Look forward to hearing more tonight. Thank you.
So we have a full quorum, all 5 members of the Washington County Board of Commissioners this evening. Marcusundy is going to explain a little bit more about some of the background, why we're here tonight, and some of the logistics. Take it away, Marcus. Thank you.
Right. Thank you very much, Commissioner. And for those who just joined, I would like to ask our interpreter just to share about the interpretation, just in case anybody is listening to the Spanish channel.
Hola, buenas tardes. Hay traducción en español disponible. Para acceder al canal en español, vaya a la selección por debajo de su pantalla por la derecha. Elige el icono del globo mundial y seleccione español. Si tiene alguna pregunta, escriba su pregunta en el chat o utilice la función de levantar la mano por debajo de su pantalla. Durante las actividades del grupo pequeño, por favor regresen a la sala principal para continuar la charla en español. Gracias.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Well, I am Marcusundy. I'm the ED of the Coalition of Communities of Color, a 19-member non-organization, 19 members that do nonprofit work, social service work for culturally specific organizations, and we do a lot of work in Washington County. I'm glad to be here tonight. This is the 4th of 6 sessions being held by the county to talk about, yes, body-worn cameras, but also any other issues that you as county residents would care to speak about. I would be remiss if I didn't take a moment to acknowledge the shooting of yet another unarmed Black man, Jacob Blake, this time in Wisconsin. According to the Washington Post, there have been 5,587 people killed by the police. He didn't get killed, but killed by the police since 2015. But that's nationwide, and Blacks have been at the highest rate. So I am, and I think we should all be exhausted, but also take this moment to become resolved and energized and see what we can do. And I'm hopeful that conversations like the ones you're having with all 5 of your commissioners tonight, you should be very proud of that, Washington County, can start leading us down that pathway. So I was going to suggest a moment of silence, but I'd actually really like to just get into the discussion. So I'm going to go through the logistics very quickly. I want to remind you all, those of you that were in the waiting room, you might have seen some agreements, but I'm just going to mention them quickly. I'm hoping that the people on this call stay engaged. These meetings are hard. It's not like being in the room with somebody, but stay engaged, please. Speak your truth responsibly, and be as specific as you can. Try not to have generalizations. Try to get us to the point so we can understand where you're coming from. Listen to understand instead of listening to respond or to be defensive. Just listen to understand and see if you can hear the other citizens' point of view. Be willing tonight to do things a little bit differently and experience some discomfort. This is not easy stuff. You're not going to get all the answers you want, so expect and accept some non-closure on issues. By the way, any issues that you raise up that can be answered tonight, we will, but this is a listening session. This is not a back and forth. So your commissioners would like to hear from you. So they will be capturing every question that is asked and every question that has an answer or a contact person or a description or a policy, they will share with you. And this will be posted, I understand, within 48 hours on the website. You can look at some of the earlier sessions, the earlier 3 sessions, look at the questions that were asked and the answers that they were giving, but the commissioners are intent upon getting you that information and maintain confidentiality. Just respect what's shared and allow it to remain in this room. For those of you that talk a lot like me, you might want to step back and hear from others. For those of you who are reticent to speak, this might be a good time to step forward and make sure that your commissioners hear directly from you about what you care about in the county. If this is one of our affinity group sessions, so we've had one for LGBTQ folks. We're going to have one for people with disabilities or interested in disability issues. And this is the BIPOC session. So the one thing we would ask, it's not a rule, but the one thing we would ask is that those of you who are not BIPOC, let those Black, Indigenous, and people of color, raise their hands and raise their issues first so they can be heard. And then we are still anxious to hear from everybody. And, some of the facilitators, my other facilitators are Erica and Insil, and I'm one of the facilitators, but we will be trying to help you keep your comments to 2 minutes or so that we can hear from as many residents as possible. So please be respectful to those otherwise in the room that haven't been heard. And again, I think I said it, but this is a listening session. Your commissioners are here to listen to you. It's not a Q&A where you get immediate answers, but they are tracking, and so they will get you that information. Our Chair Harrington mentioned that one of the main reasons for this session is to get feedback from you all about the question of body-worn cameras. And Glenn, if you would throw up the timeline, the chair mentioned it very briefly. Oh, sorry about that. Cut off your phones. That's another thing I need to mention. But the chair mentioned it briefly, but and you might have seen this when you were in the waiting room. But these two slides are just a quick look at this. Went all the way back when George Floyd was killed on May 25th. Your commissioners had statements. As about a week later, 2 weeks later, they were hearing from the community. In fact, they proposed the body-worn camera issue, and that's kind of what got us here. And since then, you can see there's been a whole series of meetings, from meeting with community organizations, getting feedback. All that culminated in these 6 sessions. Next slide, Glenn. In these 6 sessions that we're having, we've already had 2. Tonight is, we've already had 3. Tonight is the 4th. And there's a couple more on August 29th, as you see, and August 31st. And then you can see when the board is going to get their report. The board is going to provide direction to staff. And on the 22nd and the 29th, your commissioners will be hearing from the results of that report. So I only mention that just to remind you that your commissioners are listening. When, as Chair Harrington said, when the idea was brought up, the community responded. They decided to table it and hear more from the community. I also want to remind people that the sheriff has supported these listening sessions. You won't see the sheriff on this call. The sheriff has decided not to try to influence at all. He just wanted you all to know that he publicly supports these sessions. And there's some information, I think there's some links in the chat room about the current policy on body-worn cameras, the link to frequently asked questions about body-worn cameras, and the link to a fact sheet about body-worn cameras. And if it's not in there now, it'll be in there shortly. And I would ask you also to keep in mind, I'm talking a lot, but I just want you to get all these rules. The commissioners do not have policy control over the sheriff. They have budgetary control. That said, if you have an opinion about whether or not they should have more or less authority, your commissioners should have more or less authority over public safety policy, please express that in these meetings. And I will give one last reminder about interpretation. So again, I would like to ask for the interpretation announcement, please.
Gracias. Buenas tardes. Gracias por acompañarlos esta tarde. Hay traducción en español disponible. Para acceder al canal en español, vaya a la selección por debajo de su pantalla por la derecha. Elige el icono del globo mundial y seleccione español. Si tiene alguna pregunta, escriba su pregunta en el chat o utilice la función de levantar la mano por debajo de su pantalla. Durante las actividades de grupos pequeños, por favor regresen a la sala principal para la charla traducida en español. Gracias.
Thank you. And I have about 1 more minute of announcements. And one is just about the county's role as a government body. Most of you probably already know this, but county governments serve as the safety nets for our communities. Here in Washington County, programs range from health and human services programs, and that includes everything from public health, women, infants, and children, or the WIC program, programs for veterans. The county houses the library services, the in partnership with the city, with the cities of the county. They also have a variety of public safety programs, including the sheriff's office, community corrections, and juvenile justice. And as I mentioned previously, the board does not have policy or programmatic oversight of the sheriff. The sheriff is independently elected. They do, however, have oversight of the budget. And so your comments to them about what you want to see in Washington County will have an impact. And with the county commissioners present, and particularly with all of them present, this is an official public meeting. So the only distinction I want to share with you is that if you stay in the main room with me, it will be recorded, and the contact information of individuals who speak, communicate, put their notices in the chat room, they will be included as part of the public record. For those wishing a less public or more private, they can go into one of the 2 breakout rooms with the facilitators, and those meetings are not recorded. They won't be part of the county's official public record, but your questions and your comments will be kept and shared, not by name, but just so that your commissioners will know what you care about. And only the main room will include the sign language, ASL, and Spanish interpretation. The only other thing, please mute yourself when you're not speaking. If you want to speak, raise your hand physically or use the raise hand feature found when clicking on the participants list. And if you want to use the chat room, you can use that at any time. So that's our spiel. And I just want to get right into the polling questions. One of the primary reasons for this session is to discuss law enforcement's use of body-worn cameras. So while we're all here together, we're going to ask a couple of anonymous questions to get your quick feedback. So if you could throw up the first polling question and we can start from there. You should be able to answer the question directly on your screen. And we'll give it about a minute, and then we'll see what you all care about or think about. It's important, whatever you put, there's no wrong answers. And what I do hope is that at the end of this session, we'll ask the same thing. And once you've had a chance to hear from your fellow residents, want to see if your answers will be the same. So hopefully you have a listening ear as a community tonight on either side. That's about a minute. So let me end the poll and see what we have. So where we landed right now, even though the response numbers are fairly small, they're fairly clear. Right now, the first question, which I didn't read, but you all can read, sorry about that. How do you feel about equipping all law enforcement with body-worn cameras? And what you decided is that 37% of you, well, 58% of you either strongly agree or agree. And then 11% of you weren't sure. And the other 32% of you either disagreed or strongly disagreed. So right now, it's landing on, you feel like equipping law enforcement with body-worn cameras. I don't know if yeah, there we go. Is that, oh, I would like to go to the next question. Okay, here we are. So the next question is, I believe that body-worn cameras either, number one, intrude upon the privacy rights of residents. Number two, promote accountability and transparency to the public training and personnel evaluation. That question has always confused me, but I hope you can make your way through it. Three, help provide compelling evidence in criminal prosecution. Sorry, I'm putting my crazy face so close to the screen, but I'm just trying to read it. And the next one is help provide compelling evidence in criminal prosecutions or unnecessarily increase the police budget. So you can see the choices. I think that's all the choices. And I'm looking forward to your responses.
I think there's two more choices there that you didn't read. Maybe it was scrolled down.
Oh, yeah, could you, I'm trying to, oh, okay. And now I can scroll my own thing. Okay, I apologize. So two more choices. Require trust in the police to turn on the camera when engaging with the community. So that could be an issue. And can produce videos that is edited to misrepresent or distort the situation being filmed. Thank you for the help. All right. And we'll give a minute or a minute and a half or so to hear from folks. I will request for the next session that we have some waiting music, so to entertain the county. That's the least the county commissioners can support. Actually, this is we're putting on these sessions, so I blame ourselves. That's about good enough time. Let's see what our results of the poll show. So, of the people that responded, 25% believe, yes, 25% believe that body-worn cameras do intrude upon the privacy rights of residents, but 44% believe that it actually promotes accountability and transparency to the public, the training and personnel evaluation. 38% help provide compelling evidence in criminal prosecution. That's a little more than a third. Only 19% thought that it unnecessarily increased police budgets. Oh, but the most heavy response was body-worn cameras require trust in the police to turn on the camera when engaging with the community. So you have to trust the police. And the last is 31% says it can produce video that is edited to misrepresent or distort the situation. So that's our baseline. That's where we are. We're gonna take this opportunity to think about it for a minute. We're about to go into the breakout rooms, but before we do, I wanted to see if there were any questions that the group has before we go into the breakout rooms. And it's important that you know while you're thinking about whether or not you have questions, that in the breakout rooms, yes, you can certainly talk about body-worn cameras, or you can talk about any other issue that has come up at the county. You know, as I didn't share at the beginning, but the county had sent out a survey. Many of you may have responded to it, but the issues that rose up in the county were issues of housing and affordability, the county budget, public safety, racial justice. You all raised quite a bit of issues that seemed important to you when you all responded to that survey. Everything is on the table. Your commissioners want to hear from you. And that's all I have to say. I will ask, who is the chat monitor in my room? I will ask Melissa or Michelle, but Melissa, has anyone raised any questions prior to us going into the breakout rooms? Silence is a no. And so we are now going to take the time to go into the breakout rooms. And I think I have to say this, and I will reach out into the ether for Mr. Montgomery. But I think once you get assigned to a breakout room, you can always return to the main room, which is being recorded and has the translation. If you want to stay in the breakout room the full time, you can, and then we will pull you back in about 35 or 40 minutes. But those, I don't think those who want to be in the room with your commissioners who are all going to stay in one room, you would have to say, leave the breakout room and come back. But once you come back to the main room, you can't go back to a breakout room. I think I captured that correctly.
Hi, Marcus. It looks like we actually have a quick question from
Very good.
Rena, if that's okay.
Yes, please.
Hello, good evening. Can you hear me?
I can hear you, yes.
Okay, great. So I just wanted to thank Chair Harrington for having making a nod to transparency tonight. I noticed, and for anyone who was not here at any of the last 3 community listening sessions, this is the first time that the chair has offered that background that that before these listening sessions, community organizations had already formally expressed to the county that they would, well, Chair Harrington put it that they're not so keen on body-worn cameras. I'd like to just sort of like clarify that, because I think that there could be a little bit more transparency there. I appreciate there's a little bit more than there has been in the last 3 sessions, but to give more fuller context to that, they haven't just said that they do not want body-worn cameras because they're not an effective solution. They've actually also very explicitly demanded that the sheriff's office be defunded. And I also, Chair, really think that if you're trying to be transparent, you should have shared those links. So I'm going to do that now. So these are what she's referring to. She's talking about Reimagine Oregon's policy demands, as well as, well, I think actually she was maybe just talking about the community reinvestment proposal, but the community reinvestment proposal goes into detail about why body-worn cameras are not effective or a good investment. And Reimagine Oregon, the community reinvestment proposal and Reimagine Oregon both demand defunding the sheriff's office. And I'm going to also just really quickly, I know I'm sorry, I want everyone to be able to share in breakout rooms, but I just also feel like I think transparency is so important. I think that leadership should be transparent. And I just feel like there's some gaps that I, as a private citizen, am having to fill for people. So here's the list of organizations that have either signed on to Reimagine Oregon or the community reinvestment proposal. And please feel free to look through those links. They already provide a lot of research about body-worn cameras and their effectiveness. And I also just kind of want to throw out the philosophical question that if you're not even going to listen to community-based organizations and Black leaders in our community who have done a lot of research and have presented research, I'm not sure why private citizens with anecdotes and sentiments should really expect to be heard more. But I also appreciate that you're listening to the community. Thank you. Sorry about that.
All right. Well, thank you, Rena. Appreciate your comments again. I enjoy hearing from you every time. Thank you very much. And I'm actually part of Reimagine Oregon, so that is a good website. I do encourage everybody to visit there, and those are great documents and great information. So I appreciate that feedback. So now, at this point, we are going to transition into our breakout rooms. You can either continue this conversation, or you can start a full blown other one. So in breakout room number 1 is Erica, and in breakout room number 2 is Insil. So give them your full attention, hold their feet to the fire, and keep the comments and information coming to the commissioners. So thank you, and take us away. So while people are coming and going, I missed the last meeting. So for the 2 prior, I know people could go out and then they could pop back in. So I just want to give it a minute to make sure everybody is settled appropriately. And I'm glad to see all the commissioners and all the citizens that are joining us.
Marcus, just a point of order. If we
Yes.
end with very few participants, you can see we have a lot of staff just by the nature of, our configuration. If there are only a few participants, we may want to consolidate one of the breakout rooms into the main room. So I'll help support that if you need it.
Okay, well, if, well, I don't know who all the staff are, but if that's the case, are you just gonna strong arm the other breakout room and just force them in, or are you going to
I will
announce?
kindly encourage one of the
Okay.
two breakout rooms to
Okay.
consider, or I will visit them both and let folks peel off as they're willing.
Okay, okay. Well, that'll be good.
Marcus, I wonder if you can send me, if you can advance me to a breakout room so I can move about.
Oh, okay. I'll do that.
I got it. I think he was talking to me, Marcus.
Oh, that's right. There's, you all are fortunate enough to have two Marcuses on this call. Consider yourselves lucky. I'll give it about one more minute. I was just reminding Glenn, for the people that that opted into a breakout room, they may have wished for some off the record comments and to be really cursing out their commissioner. So I just wanted to make sure that he was reminded of that option for folks and not to drag them back unless they wanted to come back. So that is all. The one thing, while I have this group here, and I'll try to remember it at the end, I do want to remind both this group and whoever is here from the public that following these 6 listening sessions, the dates are going to go out very shortly for there's 4 community investment discussions where the community members will have an opportunity to share with the commission again and their staff about the things that are important to them from a budgetary standpoint. So it's 2 separate processes, but it's a lot more access than I've seen in a lot of counties that you all are getting to your commissioners, Washington County. So be mindful of that. Don't just dump your emails into the trash when it comes from the county. There's good stuff there and you can influence what's going to be happening in the county. Now, the one thing I will say, I can't imagine that everybody is watching the Republican National Convention tonight. So I'm surprised there are not people chomping at the bit to get at their commissioners. But if I'd have known it was going to be this quiet for a while, I would have brought my list of suggestions and grievances to the commissioners. But no, I will ask Melissa if she's still with us to have there been any questions yet, Melissa?
No, there isn't any questions, but Ariel Segura would like to say something.
Please do.
Yeah, thanks again for holding these sessions. I've attended a couple, and with that said, I did just want to quickly respond to Chair Harrington's comment about not all people of color being against body-worn cameras. While I completely agree that communities of color are not a monolith, as someone that's attended these sessions with there being some pretty clear opposition to spending more money on body-worn cameras, it does, and since there have been several, like we talked about the Reimagine Oregon, and several other organizations also being clearly in opposition to funding body-worn cameras, it feels a little frustrating that was the comment that was shared. I know that we are here to discuss that, of course, and the fact that we're even here to discuss body-worn cameras instead of discussing other forms of community safety and what that can look like for the people that are affected most. It is a little frustrating to hear that that was the response. So I just wanted to put that out there and felt important to call out and name.
No, thank you very much, Ariel, for your comment. And for those in the public or the community that are on the call, one thing that I think would be very useful for the commissioners is to hear from the public what the definitions they have for defund the police, abolish the police, divest and invest. I think your commissioners, because again, and I have to remind you, even though your commissioners are on this call and they could very clearly answer some of your questions, this is a listening session and we want it to be fair, both for those who are not in the room with the commissioners and for the people who are in the room with the commissioners, that we didn't want to get into the back and forth with the commissioners. What we wanted to get into is to hear from the community. But I think it would be useful, whether it is, I don't think Rena's in this room or Ariel, but any resident of Washington County, if you could make it clear to the commissioners what defund the police means to you, because it's more than a three-word phrase, and it means a lot of different things to a lot of different people. And I just want to be clear, whether it's Ariel or Rena or anybody else, can you make it clear to the commissioners what you all are talking about when you're talking about defund the police, so they can know where on the spectrum you land with respect to that issue? Because I have had many conversations, both as a facilitator and as a member of the BIPOC community, about this issue, and nobody's in exactly the same place. And I think it would give some context and help the commissioners understand where the community is coming from. So I'll stop talking now, but I did want to throw that out there and encourage anybody on this call to share that with the commissioners. That would be welcome.
Hi, so I apologize if I don't pronounce your name correctly, but Daya would like to share something.
Thank you, Daya. Well, first, tell us how to say your name.
Oh, it's Dia. Yeah, I know.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, I'm a high school student here in Washington County, and I think for me, what defunding the police really means is, we know that the system is broken and it's not working. So rather than trying to punish people for committing crimes, which a lot of times is done out of pure need, it would be more about preventing crime. So you reallocate resources from the police budget and give more money to local organizations and like low-income housing, lots of different areas that help marginalized communities and low-income families in your local area, because the police are given like a huge amount of the budget. So reinvesting some of that into the community. That's what it would look like for me.
Thank you for that comment. and nobody asked, but I will share. I have heard, and thank you, Dia. I have heard that version from Dia, but I have also heard those who take it literally, abolish the police, meaning they just want to get rid of all policing. And I have heard the whole spectrum. Some wanted to do a careful, look at the police budgets, look at all the police budgets. We're at the county and we're only talking about the sheriff right now. That is the police budget, but they're talking about looking at that in the context of what that body of work is for the sheriff and what percentage of it is dealing with mental health, dealing with the homeless, dealing with the wraparound social services, dealing with housing issues that really shouldn't be in the bailiwick of the sheriff. And I have seen some careful, thoughtful consideration about having a slow ramp up to offloading some of those services that the police do to the different social services that the county controls, the health and human services and other services that the county controls. And then I have heard others where it's just get rid of it. So again, there's a lot of context, and maybe what I will ask the folks that speak up, what they can share their context and their comment at the same time. Nancy Thomas has a question. If she would like to be heard, we would like to hear from her.
Hi, Marcus. It's good to see you again. How are you doing?
I'm well. Nice to see you.
To all of the county commissioners and my fellow Washington County residents, I too have thought very interestingly about the effort to defund, and I'm using that in my air quotes, the police. For me personally, as a Black woman with a 6 foot, 14-year-old Black male child, I do not want the police defunded. I need to understand that when I call Sheriff Pat or a member of the Washington County Sheriff's Department, that they will be able to respond adequately. If something should happen to our community, I need to know that they will be able to respond adequately. However, being the mother of that child, I have to also know that they are trained to deal with all of our citizens in a trauma-informed way, and that they have other options besides lethal force to use against those that they may fear. I have a lot of, how do I want to say it? There's a lot of things that I feel and think because of what's happening in the world and over the past 3 or 4 months. But most importantly, what I'm concerned about is making sure that my son can come home safely. If he wants to meet his friends and ride to Target, that's what 14-year-olds do. But defunding the police has never been part of my answer to the problem. Are there ways that we can divert money to take care of other things like mental health? Absolutely. Are there ways that we can divert money to deal with homelessness? Absolutely. Are there ways that we can divert a lot of money to do other more important things in the community? Absolutely. But I don't feel that defunding the police is the way to go. Are they broken? Absolutely. Do they need to be retrained? Yes. In some cases, do we need to start over? Yes, we do. But I need to know that if there's a fire or if there's a violent problem at my home, that they're going to respond. And if we defund them, then who's going to respond? So I acknowledge all people who feel that the police should be defunded. And I acknowledge where that thought is coming from. But I like the idea that if I call 911, someone can respond. And I want that to continue. And I'm not sure that I'm enjoying the fact that Sheriff Pat's staff is being used in Portland, but that's a whole nother story. I think I appreciate when people say that we need to break it down and start over again. I understand that. And in some ways we do. But to abolish them just because we think what? who's going to protect you? Someone has to protect you. And I want that protection. It sounds different, but I do want that protection. So thank you for allowing me to say that. I apologize for being late. But I know Sheriff Pat. I made it a point to get to know him personally. I know many people on his staff, not by name, but I know that if I need something, I can call them. And I think that it's up to us as citizens to actually start beginning that relationship as well. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your comments, Nancy. I think a couple of staff members have noted that the sheriff's staff is not being used in Portland. So let that be reflected in the record. And I don't know what all those details were or what you were referring to, but those seem to be good sources saying that the sheriff's staff is not being used in Portland.
Thank you very much for clarifying that. That's this. I've heard that rumor 3 times. So thank you for confirming that.
Well, then I would suggest to county staff, if that's a rumor floating out in the community, perhaps that factoid can be posted on your website and remind people that despite what you might have heard, I don't know where on the website, but just put that notice up there that we are not using any county policing staff in the city of Portland or Multnomah County. That would be a healthy response, I think. Thank you, Nancy, for making everybody aware of that. How are we doing, Melissa?
Hi, so Bruce Bartlett would like to share something.
Welcome, Bruce. Thank you.
Thank you. Hi, Bruce Bartlett. I'm a longtime Washington County volunteer, and for a number of years, I've been on the Sheriff's Enhanced Sheriff's Patrol District Advisory Committee. I just refer to it as the Sheriff's Advisory Committee. And this year, I am the chair of the Sheriff's Advisory Committee. And I am in no way, shape, or form a law and order kind of guy. I'm heartened by Nancy Thomas's comments that we need a functioning 911 system. And so the concept of defunding the police comes out of my interpretation is an enraged population at a truly dysfunctional police system. I am relieved and proud to say that the sheriff's department in Washington County is a highly functioning system, which certainly is not perfect, but we are fortunate to have the Sheriff Garrett providing policy direction. Am I coming through okay?
Yeah, you are now. You are now.
Okay. So defunding the police is an understandable but simplistic concept, which really won't get any traction. Reassigning resources is certainly a viable option, and I, as the chair, would be very interested in any citizen who would go through the sheriff's budget and say, this is overfunded and we need to devote money to other things. You know, the issue of mental health clinicians doing ride-alongs with the sheriff's deputy is something that has fairly recently been instituted, and maybe having another group like the fire and rescue also have mental health ride-along clinicians would be something to look into. In the LGBTQ plus conversation, the Eugene program called Cahoots, which relieves the sheriff's department of having to make all the calls, is something that really warrants some looking into. And I'm interested if anybody has any experience with Cahoots in Eugene. Evidently, they've made 24,000 visits since 2016, and only 1% of those non-police visits have required police backup calls. So I'm really looking for things that we can do as a community that relieves the police of having to take on the burden that they have, and to make the overall approach more efficient.
Thank you, Bruce. Melissa, I see some activity in the chat room, but what are the folks posting in there?
So there are a couple links. Let's see.
Oh, I think one is about cahoots, which was what Bruce was talking about. Thank you, Ariel. And Brian popped something in there as well. I also wanted to remind the group that I absolutely appreciate the discussion about the cameras and police safety, but you have your commissioners here. You can talk about anything you care about. You can talk about housing. They run the libraries. They run public safety. We're in the middle of a pandemic. You might have a healthcare issue or two you wish to raise with them about what's going on, but don't be shy. Feel the latitude to say anything you want. Your commissioners are providing you amazing access during this, well, not just this 2-week period, but the 2-week period of the listening sessions.
Marcus, may I ask another question?
I wish you would. Thank you, Nancy.
My question is our conversation limited to just the police issue? It is not. Catherine is shaking her head no.
No, vigorously. That's right. You can raise any issue you want.
Well, thank you.
These commissioners control, I understand, a $1.5 billion budget. I was told that number today. So there are many issues under their purview.
So my goal in coming to you all today was actually not to talk about Sheriff Pat and the Sheriff's Department. So thank you for allowing me to say that. But I'm more concerned about how citizens engage in civic engagement in Washington County. I am a graduate of the original and inaugural cohort from the Civic Leaders Engagement Program. And since that time, I and many of my colleagues that have graduated from this program have been desperately trying to plug ourselves into supposed positions on various boards and commissions that appear to be open. To date, there have been slightly over 80 graduates from that wonderful program. And we thank you and appreciate Washington County for funding that program. And there are only 6 that have been placed on commissions or boards. That's about 7.5%. That's pretty bad. And part of the reason why I'm appealing to the commissioners, I'm appealing to you to walk the talk and put your money where your mouth is. Every open you have over, well, first of all, I found out that the website is not being updated timely. So when you think there's an open position, it's actually not. They probably already filled the position, but they never changed the website. Second of all, whatever open positions that you have only to pick up the phone and call Adelante Mujeres, and they will put you in touch with 80 people who would love to volunteer. Part of the reason why I'm having this conversation with you is because I got rejected again for the 3rd time this year. And my husband and I, we had a good laugh. Now, I know that it isn't guaranteed, and I understand that. But eventually, I thought that someone of my professional background, educational background, civic engagement, whatever you want to call it, I thought that there would be a place for me somewhere. But after I got the letter that said, thank you, but no thank you, I thought, now, wait a minute. What's going on? And then when I began to check in with my fellow graduates from the program, I realized that everybody's been doing the same thing. We have applied, we've been denied, and there's always a wonderful and a very nice explanation as to what happened. And I understand that. What I'm saying is you have sunk a lot of money into this program. Use it. You want diversity on these panels, on these commissions, on these boards? Call us. But I implore you, if you're really not interested in putting forth educated people who are willing to serve for free and to work with the county, then stop the program. Let's stop wasting everybody's time, and let's take those monies and divert them someplace else. Now, I don't suggest that because I love Adelante Mujeres and I enjoy the program, and I also teach in the program myself. But I implore you, don't play with it. Just use it. If you have any open position right now, you could have it filled. You could have all of your positions filled in probably 2 weeks' time if you would just ask. But if you spend your time trying to make sure that you're making certain people feel good by allowing certain people to have certain positions and on, I know how this goes. I'm just begging you to make the decision, make the commitment, follow through with what you started, and I promise you, you will be happy. You will be pleased that you will have other citizenry involved. So that's what I wanted to say. Marcus, once again, thank you. I promise I'll put the duct tape back on.
No, my sister, thank you very much for your comments. This is a beautiful moment for me because your commissioners are not able to speak right now, and I get to say whatever I want, even though they all have great answers for you, but this is not that. So I will say a couple of things that I know. First, thank you for your comments. They sounded on point and heartfelt and very passionate. Thank you very much. Two, I will just say that I remain hopeful because of the strides your commissioners have taken in the last little bit. They approved a CEIO position and they just hired their CAO position, both of whom I believe will be charged with looking at the whole system, looking at equity, looking at how the systems work. So both of them will be touching a lot of the areas specifically to those that you spoke about. And I can't not imagine them looking at the Civic Leaders Program, trying to wrest out all the wonderful horses that they have waiting in there, all the horsepower rather that they have waiting in there. And then I would just remind a premature comment I made about the community investment process, which is going to follow this. And I think that will be another, you mentioned at the very beginning, how to get engaged with the county. That is going to be yet another opportunity to get engaged and to begin the process of influencing your county. Now, I'm just getting to know Washington County over the last years. I think so the changes in the past might have been tectonic. I still don't think they'll be cataclysmic, but I think they're starting to move at a much better pace. And I'm hopeful even that process will perhaps lend to you and your cohorts that have gone through the Civic Leaders Program with a way to get engaged, first to learn even more. I imagine you learned a lot about the county through the Civic Leaders Program, but that's another opportunity to learn more. And I think the county and your commissioners are kind of excited to have this upfront and personal reminder of all the leaders they've helped create in their own county, and they would probably want to employ them as well. So I will check in with Melissa, and you all might have seen the notice. Excuse me. We only have a few minutes left in this session, so anybody who was, hanging on for that last minute question, now would be the time to lift it up, or have any follow-ups to anything you've heard from any of your fellow residents.
Hi, so Maria Caballero would like to share.
Oh, Maria, mi amiga, how are you tonight?
Good, thank you so much. And thank you for the listening sessions, commissioners, and for a great job, Marcus. I just wanted to talk a little bit, just kind of go back to the sentiment of defunding the police. From my observation and my experience, I think that comes from frustration. People are really, really sick and tired of being sort of at the receiving end of public safety and policing, as opposed to being a part of what police need to do. Police executives have no excuse for not having strong relationships with the community. For over 30 years, they've been getting training on community policing, conscious policing, problem-solving policing. It's been called by so many names, and the part about, and they use all of this, the tactics and strategies. But the one strategy they have left out is that communication and engagement with the community. I think that if law enforcement 30 years ago started implementing and normalizing the fact that community are part of what they need to be part of what police do, and police need to be because they are part of the community, that I think that perspective would have taken us a very long way. So I just want to say that I think it's time. I don't think that police have any options now. They have to step up and make community part of what they do and part of public safety in our communities. There's just no other option now. And so sadly, you know, so much time has gone by, and it's taken us getting to this level of you know, killings and deaths and disruption to get us here. So I'm really looking forward to working in collaboration and in partnership with our law enforcement agencies in Washington County, and hope that they will, and with the guidance of our elected officials, participate in that and take community a little bit more seriously than they have in the past.
Muchas gracias, profesora. Thank you, Maria, for sharing that with us. Melissa will let me know if anybody else. I don't think is it time to join, or will people just emerge? I don't know, but I saw a few people come back, so I just wanted to make sure.
In about 3 minutes, everybody will just be put back into the main channel.
Okay, good. So I would like to take this time to encourage everybody to fill out their census forms. It is very important for people of color. We will be undercounted without it. Please fill out your census. If you have delayed or dodged the census taker that did the follow-up, don't do that. Give them your information, fill out the forms, get it in. They're trying to cut off the process a month early, so it is essential that you fill out your forms. Also, I can use this time for a commercial, and that is for those of you that are citizens of African descent, residents of African descent, the CARES funding notification went out. If you are African American and you were affected by COVID in any way, shape, or form, I would encourage you to go to the contingent website and see if you qualify for funding that is coming through the state. The form is simple to complete. You may qualify for it, and it may help you in a very difficult time. Thought I would share that. Oh, and who can we let back in? I believe Commissioner. If someone could let Commissioner Treese back in. Where is Commissioner Treese? I don't see you on my screen.
I've clicked it. She has to do something on her end to get back in now.
Oh, very well. Very well.
Okay, the countdown has begun. All breakout rooms will close in 53 seconds, and they will be brought back into this main room.
Let us enjoy a moment of repose before we fly into our last half hour and hear the report outs. And Marcus, if you would let me know when everybody is back, that'll be great.
Will do. All right, it looks like everybody is back, Marcus.
All right, well, everybody is back. Welcome back. Thank you for hanging in there and sharing your comments. This is the part where we share the highlights of the breakout room, but I wanted to give an option to breakout room number 2. I know Insil was facilitating that meeting, but we may lose her soon. And I just wanted to give Insil and or her note takers and chat room monitors a chance to share with us what they learned in their meeting. So thank you.
Thank you, Marcus. Fantastic break room. I just want to note that everyone was actually probably one of those model citizens that we always dream of, very engaged, very educated, very informed. So I just state that because often it is easy to overlook comments of our community if we feel like there are reasons that they might not be for whatever reason that they might not be ones that we want to listen to. So I just wanted to note that this was a fantastic breakout room. First of all, there was a kind of a consensus that maybe we're not actually asking and talking about the right things. It really wasn't about the body cameras so much as do we have trust in our police? Can we talk about the bigger systemic function of our police and how our relationships are with them? So we could talk about the body cameras, but that really wasn't the issue. And one of our members actually used a fantastic metaphor of if you have a crumbling building, you don't just keep plastering it and hope it works. You really got to rebuild it from the foundation up. There was also, unfortunately, quite a lot of experience, personal experience with negative to experiences with police to someone actually naming it as police brutality, as was their experience. So this is not just people giving opinions based on just headlines or this conversation topic, but it's very personal for so many of us. And that was, I'd have to admit, as a facilitator, it's terrible to know that this isn't a conversation because it's political or a conversation because our community is just trying to figure out new funding or budgets, but it's very personal. And then another wonderful area that we discussed was the accountability question that was available as a prompt. It was pretty quickly agreed upon that it's not so much that we need to ask, what does it look like? It's how are the police actually defining accountability? How are our police considering whether they're doing well or being successful? And time again, people in our breakout room mentioned that it's not possible just objectively for one police officer to be everything from a law enforcement person to a social services person to a medic to a person that should be able to judge whether a fire that's burning needs immediate attention, et cetera. So that limitation was brought up very bluntly and very objectively over and over again as thus then reasons for whether we call it refunding or defunding, but changing the way we appropriate funds. And there was a lot of agreement on that. I know I'm not capturing everything, but maybe Sophia or Taryn, did you want to add anything that I might have missed or?
So this is Taryn. I think you captured it very well, actually. I wrote down a couple of key themes that I noticed from the conversation, and there were a lot of what you already mentioned, the issues with lack of accountability. A number of folks also mentioned a lack of training, and also that the police are not equipped to deal with a lot of the things that they're called for, and that it might be more appropriate for others, maybe social workers, to respond to a lot of the things that the police currently do.
Insil and Taryn and Sophia, I think. Can I ask a question? Something you said, Insil, was about, and Taryn just said it too, is that it's too much work and too many different areas of work for the police to do. Was that a heavier tone than saying, no, we say defund the police because of the violence and the brutality to the citizens, versus we say defund the police because they're not right sized, doing the right jobs at the right time? Which one was that?
You know, that's a fantastic question, because I would say that what I was witnessing was it is a practice that often people with less power have to employ, which is being very diplomatic in phrasing and messaging in order to be heard and seen as relevant. It was not a fiery protest moment, and it's terrible. It was very much. If and they use many examples of, if I, in my private business, am asked to have this much schooling, if I in this certification of professionalism am required this many hours, how are we still okay with a system that hasn't adapted to those types of professional development changes in our police? And then someone actually asked very frankly, why are we potentially afraid to admit and just be humble that the system could use improvement? Why are we seemingly holding on to not wanting to admit that no, the system is totally fine if we just keep PR changing things around, calling it public safety instead of policing, or increasing the budget, it'll just be better. So I'm not sure if that answered it directly, but
One last question, and I want to get to the next group. I apologize,
Yes.
but when you said is the we your 5 county commissioners and the sheriff that don't want to change, or we everybody who doesn't want to change, or the police themselves that don't want to change?
Yes, great question. I think it was definitely more the folks who actually have the authority to make changes. Someone even mentioned, if we're saying that there are good cops, it's not all cops, et cetera, why are we not hearing from them about their desires to see reforms or improvements or continual professional development, that kind of thing? And I know, again, I'm not capturing the full correct wording, so that our group used.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Breakout room number 2. Thank you.
Oh, Marcus, I'd just like to add in really quick that there was a quick comment from Sushmita where basically kind of sums up what we were saying about policing is not people, it is a job. If a job is not serving the greatest needs, it needs to go away. The same people who are doing the job of policing can do other jobs. People have to switch choices all the time. Why is this one job more important than any other job? The system needs to be overhauled, and we need to reimagine community safety. Thank you.
Thank you, Sophia, and thank you, Shushmita. I always enjoy hearing from you. I would like, please, to hear from breakout room 2. So Erica and the chat monitor was Mira, and Gustavo was in there. So can you tell us how your breakout room went, please?
Oh, I'm super impressed with the breakout room number 1. Our breakout room was pretty quiet, to tell you the truth. We asked lots of questions to get them involved and engaged in the topics, and they spoke up on a couple. It echoed what facilitator number 1 was saying, with just trust in the police and that diminishing greatly, and specifically the sheriff calling in ICE and not matching what the community is asking for was a topic, a little bit of a frustration. I noticed other people jumped in during that. When we talked about homelessness and housing services, there's more talk about, I'm sorry, I'm losing my train of thought real fast. Gustavo, can you jump in for a moment with the notes that we had?
Yeah, regarding affordable housing and homelessness, we really had a stronger focus on COVID and how it affected our community, and more importantly, like Latino community, and how they were impacted a little way higher than any other community, and how it showed, it did like it shined a light on the fact that there's a need for more healthcare in that, or like availability. And also the need for youth that don't have a place to go, and that we don't have a lot of resources for them as well, for the homeless youth.
There was much discussion about needing more services in place in order to support the populations out in Washington County that are experiencing homelessness and hitting all demographics. So yeah, we had a very short, brief conversation, Marcus.
Good. Thank you, Erica.
Marcus, if I could just jump in for a quick second, I just wanted to share, summarize a couple of the chat comments. This is regarding body-worn cameras. The comment that I'm summarizing is that body-worn cameras are seen as tools of policing. They're not substitutes for reforming or improving policing. And the comment went on to say that communities need linguistically and culturally competent dialogue and engagement around the use and benefits of body-worn cameras. And another part of the comment was around that many residents, particularly heavily policed minority communities, fear that body-worn cameras will be used as a surveillance tool that will reinforce racial profiling and ethnic biases. Just wanted to add that to the discussion.
Thank you. Thanks very much, Mira. And I just wanted to check in with Gustavo just in case.
Yeah, I mean, something that I really, that we talked about also was the need for Washington County staff, for pretty much all the staff, to have like an anti-racist training, just because we want to have like an upstream and not just a band-aid to the problem. You know, we want to focus on the main problem itself. So that was something that people talked about.
Good. Thank you. Thank you, Gustavo.
Mm-hmm.
And now the main breakout room. Our room had the commissioners in it, but if Michelle is still with us, she was our note taker. So I'm going to start off with Michelle. And if Melissa wants to chime in, she can chime in as well and just give a report out about what we talked about in our room.
Yeah, so in our room, we had some wonderful conversation around defunding the police and what that means and the spectrum around that, and heard stories about how that can stem from frustration, and that there's also other ways to allocate those funds, and being able to push those into mental health services and other community engaged services. So we are still able to keep so if you need a call 911, you are not without a police. And so just thinking about the spectrum of what defunding the police is. We also heard a lot on community engagement and how to engage civically with Washington County, and how best to do that. If there are, what programs are out there, and how are the best ways to engage, and be able to hear about experiences of diversity when having a diverse experience in a community engagement, but not necessarily being placed. And how important the community perspective is for Washington County to be able to hear and hear meaningfully, because there's been some great challenges around that.
Good. I think you captured it, but I will just check in with Melissa just to be sure. Melissa?
Thanks, Marcus. No, I don't have anything else to add.
Okay. And as for me, I think Michelle said it best, but I did appreciate the comments, both impassioned and fiery and direct, about what they wanted to see, both from their civic leaders program, about they did hear the spectrum, as Michelle said, the spectrum of what defund the police means to the community. It does mean different things to different people, and I think your commissioners need to hear that context. So, again, our room was interesting. It was good. It was powerful, and I'm glad we had a chance to share. We're down to our last few minutes. But since all three of the rooms seem to still talk a little bit about defund the police, I want to throw those surveys up there real quick, the polls up real quick again, and see. I'm curious to know whether we land on the same spot or if anybody has changed their mind about body-worn cameras. And so, yes, there it is. So I'll give you all 30 seconds to answer this one, because I do want to make sure that I give Chair Harrington a time on the back end to say her thoughts before we take off. So. All right. That's enough time. Those that are going to respond have responded. And so how do you feel about equipping law enforcement with body-worn cameras? Well, it's a smaller amount. Before it was 58% that strongly agreed or agreed, but now we're down to 38% on that, and some of the disagrees went up. So that's an interesting change. Not a dramatic one or a drastic one, but it's material. And Marcus, if you would throw up the second question of, oh, that's the same. Okay, that's the same question. And then it's the question about what you believe about body-worn cameras. And I'm not going to mangle all the 6 or 7 questions this time, but you all know the questions, so I look forward to your answers. And that'll be about 30, 45 seconds, and I appreciate that.
Excuse me, I have a question about the last polling, the last poll.
Yes.
Statement. Can you read that again? I don't, it's not up.
Oh, the previous poll?
No, from the one that we're doing just now.
I'm sorry. It says, I believe body-worn cameras. Oh, there may be some people on the phone. I apologize. And so, and then it lists a multiple choice answer of which you could answer several. One of them is
the last one is something about editing, or
the last one is can produce video that is edited to misrepresent or distort the situation being filmed. So that's the one about body-worn cameras. When they have it, they can be manipulated.
So that's why I'm asking. While I didn't choose that one, I'm kind of concerned about that one. Is that one an actual fact?
Well, you can answer all the questions. You can answer more than one question.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Oh, I'm sorry. And I should have been clear about it on the second question. You could answer as many things as you believe on the second question, whether if you think that this one's true or the other one's true. But yeah, that last question about can produce video that is edited to misrepresent or distort the situation being filmed. That's just, whether or not you trust that the video you see has not been manipulated.
Okay, thank you.
Or has the propensity or capacity to be manipulated anyway. But and about 5 more seconds, and then we'll hit the kill switch and see where we are. So for the people on the phone, and I do apologize that I have forgotten about that. So the question of, I believe body-worn cameras, and for those, intrude upon the privacy rights of the residents, 27% thought that. Promote accountability and transparency, 33% thought that. To help provide compelling evidence in criminal prosecutions, 13% believe that. That body cameras unnecessarily increase the police budget, 40% thought that. I think that's greater than before. We'll have to go back and compare. Require trust in the police to turn on the camera when engaging with the community, 60% believe that. That's still the biggest answer. That's a little bit higher than it was the first time. And then can produce video that is edited to misrepresent or distort the situation being filmed. And 40% of you thought that. And so this particular group didn't have dramatic switches in their answers, but in some different sessions, people's opinions swayed a little bit more greatly. But I just wanted to thank everybody for participating in the polls and giving that feedback. As we go through and complete all 6 sessions, we will compile all the answers. You can see what your fellow county residents thought about all the polling information. You can see all the frequently asked questions. Again, your county staff is going to be updating the websites with all the questions that were asked about which department, which person, what the answer was to the questions, and they will answer them all to the best of their ability or give you the contact person. And the last thing I will say before we conclude here is that, one, for the facilitators and the support staff who have been on this call, please stick around for a quick debrief. And for everybody else on the line, before I give it back to Chair Harrington, I just wanted to say also that will be posted soon. I believe the first meeting on the community investment sessions that we're going to be having, we are going to be having 4 sessions. There's going to be 1 in each of the districts that your commissioners represent, and that you're going to learn, how the government works, how the budget works. But I encourage all of you to attend that and just to look for the website or check your email for that. There's also sometime between now and the next month or two, there's a lot of stuff going on. There's going to be those community investment discussions beginning in October. You're going to hear the State of the County report sometime in September or October. Don't forget to vote in the election. And there'll be a few more postings related to the outcomes of these meetings. So that's the last thing I want to say, other than thank you for joining us tonight, taking a big chunk of your time on a Thursday night. And I will now pass it to Chair Harrington with my thank you for letting me be part of this tonight. Thank you, and thank all the other commissioners. Thank you for letting me join you tonight.
Thank you, Marcus. On behalf of my 4 colleagues, all 5 of us, we want to thank you, Marcus, for being our main host this evening, and for the full team, and for all of the discussions that everyone has participated in tonight. It's really important and meaningful for us to have the opportunity of input from our community. And as we are looking forward to a final decision with regard to the investment and deployment of body-worn cameras for the entire law enforcement patrol, we wanted to make sure that we checked in with the community to get more input and feedback on that. So we greatly appreciate it. Thank you. This is the first set of listening sessions that we've had that are fully virtual. We've done a lot of new things this year in 2020, and we will continue to do some new things as we strive to do a good job for you. So thank you, everyone, for giving us the benefit of your time tonight. Thank you to Commissioner Schouten, Willie, Rogers, and Treese for joining me this evening as well.
Thank
you. Take care,
you.
everybody. Stay healthy.
Okay, so I will stop recording.